Yeah, Colin turns on the TV, Christian flips off the screen, cause there's no good children's shows that he's seen. We've got dogs with blogs, superheroes in the ER. All dads are dumb and kids have better PR. Colin just smile, Christian sits with a scowl. He complains to his son, all the kids show suck now. They sit and discuss the show's plus and minuses while you listen or watch on YouTube to the arguments. Who is right? Is it the son or the dad? Either way you get to laugh knowing Christian is mad. So pull up a chair, get the corner poppin'. Here's a new episode of What Are We Watching?
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for the latest episode of the What Are We Watching podcast. We kind of took a break for a few weeks. My wife and I were on vacation for our 20th/21st in a week anniversary, and then we took another week off while we got on iTunes. That's right, you can finally get the What Are We Watching podcast on iTunes. Go there and you can download, I think it's 30 episodes that we have out there. Pretty awesome. The reason we wanted to take a little time before we got on iTunes is so that there was plenty of full episodes and mini episodes for people to kind of like dive into and binge listen to or binge watch on YouTube once they realize we're also on YouTube. And that way they would keep coming back to What Are We Watching for more. We just wanted to give people a ton of awesome episodes when we went on iTunes, and I think we successfully did that. You can also check out our awesome interview with Chris Tallman from the Thundermans. There's an edited down version, and then there is a full-blown hour-long version, which includes all the comedy geek talk that I did with him. That's probably for adults. Not that there's adult language in it or anything. It's just we talk about a lot of comedians that adults like and adults know, and kids don't even have any idea. But the cut-down version, the edited version of the Chris Tallman interview is really great. Now, if you're watching, you see that we have a special guest host. This is my daughter, Mia. Hi, Mia.
Hi.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mia. I am 7 years old. I want to be a police when I grow up, and I'm writing a children's book with my dad.
That's right. We are writing a children's book about how Mia wants to be a police, don't you?
Yes.
She always says that. I want to be a police. Not a policeman, not a policewoman, just a police. And I kind of have adopted her way of saying that. It's kind of cool. I want to be a police. So that is why she's excited. Okay, now if you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll see that she is wearing her closest proximity to an Odd Squad suit. That's because we're reviewing Odd Squad today. That's what we're watching. And it's got a tie and a shirt and a coat and a badge. I didn't want to put her in a full suit and tie for the episode today, but she is wearing her almost Odd Squad shirt, right, Mia?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are watching Odd Squad. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, Mia loves the show. We'll find out if I love it as we talk about it. But Mia, who is your favorite character on Odd Squad?
Misso.
What? Who?
Misso.
You didn't even let me finish. You just love saying Misso. Yeah, her favorite character is Misso. And I have a surprise for everybody out there. The What Are We Watching podcast. Mia and I are going to be interviewing...
Odd Squad.
Who on Odd Squad?
Misso.
What's her real name?
Millie Davis.
We are going to be interviewing Millie Davis, star of Odd Squad, who plays the character Miss O. We are super, super excited. I have a friend that writes for PBS, and I said, hey man, is there any way you could hook us up with an interview to Millie Davis, Miss O? And he said, I'm going to see what I can do, Christian. And sure enough, within 2 days, I had the information to contact Millie and her parents. They said they want to come on the podcast, so that's going to be coming up soon. We still have to line up the date and time because, you know, she's a kid still. And so we got to line all that up with school and her parents and her filming and all of that. But we're super excited to be talking to Millie Davis. She was jumping up and down when she found out about that. You were excited, weren't you? Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's dive into the episode. This was Season 1, Episode 22 of Odd Squad called The Potato Ultimo. Okay, now, did you like this episode? Let's get that out of the way.
Yes.
Okay, and the Potato Ultimo is part 1. There's always 2 parts to Odd Squad. What is the Potato Ultimo about? If you could tell everybody what the first part was about, just in general, quickly, what was it about?
By a magic potato, Olive was like, yes, because she was growing and Otto was shrinking.
Okay, but really she wasn't growing. Otto was just shrinking because he ate the amazing shrinking potato. What was the shrinking potato? Yeah, potato salad. Here's the thing. Otto took somebody else's lunch out of the refrigerator, didn't he? Whose lunch was it?
Olaf's, because it had an O on it, and there's lots of O's.
Right.
Like Agent Orange, Olive, Otto, all these O names.
Yeah, everybody in Odd Squad has an O name, which is odd. So he didn't know whose lunch he was stealing, but he also shouldn't have stolen that lunch anyway if it didn't look like his. But he ate the shrinking potato salad, and then he started to shrink. And Olive was very happy that she was taller than Otto. So what happens in this episode? Let's just kind of go through what happens after he shrinks.
They needed a magic potato to make Otto bigger.
Okay, that's cool. Now, they had to work with 2 different agents this time. Usually her partner is Otto, but he was shrinking, so she couldn't work with him. What were the 2 other agents that she was working with?
Agent Orange and Olaf.
Okay, now here's the thing that it was kind of funny, but also drove me crazy, like some things do when we talk on the podcast. Agent Olaf would just say things like, or wah, 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 or woo, or stuff like that, just like make noises.
Ow.
Right, or ow, sound like a werewolf or something. And then Agent Oren would say, this is what they're talking about. This is what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
But then sometimes Olaf would talk and you could understand him. Why? Why does he talk regular sometimes and not regular the other times?
I know, it's crazy.
Well, explain it to me.
So he's always like, making noises, but we don't know what he's trying to say.
But can you explain to me why sometimes you can understand him and sometimes you can't?
Because he's just a kid.
I think that he is odd. I think Odd Squad is always there to investigate odd things, but sometimes they pick up people that are odd, which actually comes into play in part 2. Okay, so Olaf has to help Agent Olive go get the potato because he knows about the magic potato, right?
Yes.
Okay, where is the first place that they go?
They go to a cave.
And what was the cave's name?
The cave of your least greatest fears.
Your least greatest fears. Now, if it was the cave of your greatest fears, it would be showing you what?
Things that you're afraid of.
Right, because it's your greatest fears. But what does your least greatest fears mean?
Just like Coach Roberts, Olive likes him a lot.
Yeah, it's things you like or things you want to happen. See, here's the thing about Odd Squad, if you've never seen it before, but you should have watched the episode, which we told you what episode we were watching in last week's mini episode. But the thing about Odd Squad is you don't always only get a funny show, they also teach you things about math. So they took out the measuring tape and were measuring Olive's partner when he was shrinking, and then they use words like greatest and least, and that tells you things about math, right? They're always teaching you about math. Greatest numbers and least, but this is least greatest, which is the opposite, which is kind of funny. So instead of their greatest fears, they saw things that they wanted to happen. And what did Olive want to happen with her coach in her dreams?
For their players to get hurt so she can help them.
Yeah, well, she might not have wanted the players to get hurt, but she wanted to save the day. So Olive got to save the day with that. What was Olaf's thing that he wanted the most? Do you remember his?
A doctor.
He was a dentist, which you could use with that big hole in your tooth. Oh, it's growing in. But Olaf wanted to be a dentist. Do you remember what Oren wanted, what his dream was? He wants the same thing you do. To have Miss O's job.
Yes, Miss O's job.
He wanted to run Odd Squad. Okay, so when they got done with the cave, they got through. They realized that the potato was still very high up. And what did they use to climb to get to the potato?
They use 3 long, almost 10 feet ropes.
Right.
And they tied them together, and they tied a rope on the bottom, if you saw it, a rock. And Olive started climbing and got the magic potato.
Right. Well, here's the thing. They took the ropes from their outfits. And why were they wearing potato sack outfits?
Because Olaf wanted potato sack.
I know.
Outfits.
She said it's windy outside before they went to get the potato, and she got ready to put on a jacket with the jacketinator. They have inators like the evil doctor from Phineas and Ferb. They have Nators. So she went to put on her jacketinator, and Olaf said, no. Potato sackinator. And then as soon as it got on him, he said, itchy. Olaf is odd.
Yeah.
Olaf is very odd.
Say, itchy.
So they put on the potato sacks, and they had rope belts. So when they needed to get the magic potato, they laid out all of the ropes. It had to be 25 feet because it was 25 feet. At least 20. Very good. Least and greatest. But they had 30 feet. So would that work?
Yes, because that's a little bit more.
Right. It couldn't be 20, but it could be 30. So they reached the magic potato, and then they saved Otto.
Yeah.
They made him grow. Where was Otto hanging out during all this?
In his little toy play area thing.
Yeah, because the scientist there created... Oscar created like a little mini Odd Squad office for him to play. Even the computer worked, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then Otto, being dumb Otto that he always is, he decided to eat too much of the magic potato.
And Olaf, which I could barely hear him, he said, only eat one little bite.
That's because really he didn't say that. And then they like pretended to slow it down and be like, only eat one little bite.
Yeah.
Because Olaf is odd. Okay, so part 2 of the episode was called Fistful of Fruit Juice. Now, what was Fistful of Fruit Juice about?
It's about Olive being all happy in the history room cleaning, and Otto was not very happy.
No, he was not happy to be cleaning instead of being on a case. So what history did they show about Odd Squad this episode?
When Miss O was younger and she ran a fruit stand.
That's right. But here's the weird or odd thing about this. Miss O, when she was younger, was living in the year 1874.
And that is very odd.
Yeah, that is very odd. That means she's over 150 years old.
Wow.
So, and she's still a kid.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that means Miss O is odd. We already talked about how Olaf is odd. So what does that mean about Odd Squad? They kind of hire odd people, don't they?
Yeah.
They're supposed to solve odd cases, but it looks
Even
like...
Oscar is. She made a real computer, but really tiny.
Yeah, Oscar is... He's very smart, but he's a little odd as well.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the episode, we'll talk about my favorite odd character. What was happening to Miss O when she was younger in Fistful of Fruit Juice?
She was running a fruit stand and fruit was getting stolen, but only from even numbers.
Yeah, only in even numbers. So there were 2 Odd Squad agents who were dressed in like old cowboy hats and old clothes. And they came to help her with her stolen fruit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But were they very helpful?
No.
No, and that's pretty odd for Odd Squad. So they thought that a certain person did it. Who did the Odd Squad agents think stole the fruit?
Big Red.
Big Red, who wore a red coat and was a big kid and also had red hair.
Yes.
So that was kind of a good spot-on name for a character. Okay, now everything in the fruit stand was getting stolen in halves. And then they found out that Big Red had mailboxes that were getting stolen in halves. But who figured out the half thing? Was it the Odd Squad agents?
No.
Who figured it all out?
Miss O.
Miss O. So she created a math room for herself. Remember with the little game that people play with the 1, 2, 3, 4, the little paper thing that you make? And she had them put all around the barn. And what did that look like that we've seen in other episodes?
The future of the math room.
The future of the math room. So we got to see Miss O when she was little, Miss O starting to solve odd mysteries with math, and we saw the creation of the math room. This was a pretty cool episode.
Yeah.
Okay, now who were the Odd Squad agents? Do you remember their names?
Donahue and Olga.
Donahue and Olga. Yeah. Olga. You have a hard time saying Olga. Okay, so who ended up being, we'll just spoil it, everybody should have watched the episode already. Who was the real thief of the fruit and the mailboxes?
Olga,
who was really rude. Miss O figured out that she stole the fruit because whenever she wanted to buy fruit from Miss O, whose real name was?
Millie Davis.
No, who's Miss O's name? Oprah. We found out Miss O's name was Oprah in this episode.
I knew that.
You knew that.
Yeah.
So whenever Olga would buy stuff from Oprah's fruit stand, she would say, I have 3 apples, and she'd say,
Nah.
And she'd say, I have 5 bananas.
Nah.
I have 6 oranges.
Yes.
Yes. She would always take the even number, and she'd half it. She'd go, well, if you have 6 oranges, I'll take 3. You know, if you have 4 plums, I'll take 2. So Miss O figured out that Olga was the one stealing it. There were some other funny things in this episode that we kind of missed in part 2. One was Oprah's partner's name that ran the fruit stand with her. Do you remember what her name was?
No.
Yucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, now the funny thing to me, and I don't think kids get this joke, I asked her at the time and she didn't get it, was when Yucks came around, Oprah, because they don't call her Miss O yet, they call her Oprah, she said, you got any good jokes for me, Yucks? Because Yucks is another word for laughs. So it's like, oh, that her name is Yucks because she makes a lot of jokes. And then Yucks takes over the fruit stand, right? Yeah. But they don't want to call it by her first name because she said people don't want to buy stuff from food from a person named Yuck. Who wants to buy fruit at Yuck's fruit stand? Because it also means gross, right?
Yeah.
So yucks can mean laughs and gross. I thought that was a funny joke that they threw in there. Probably that the only the adults got. The other thing is Oprah was trying to invent a carrier for fruit juice in this episode. And what were some of the things she tried that didn't work?
Fruit juice in a boot.
Ugh.
Ew.
Ugh. Yuck tried that, which was yucky. Fruit juice in a boot. So nasty. And then after she said, ugh, that doesn't taste good, then she took another drink.
You said, still doesn't taste good.
Oh, sheesh.
She is so dumb.
That was dumb. What was another thing that they tried to put fruit juice in that didn't work?
A net.
A net? How can you put fruit juice in a net? It was just funny to see her pour it in.
It was huge, big.
Yeah. And
big
she's like, this isn't really working. So Yuck finally comes up with the perfect thing to hold juice in, and that is how they kind of caught Olga because they splattered juice on the floor to trip her up. What was the perfect thing to hold juice in?
A juice box.
A juice box. So Yucks invented the juice box. And I said, okay, Mia, I've watched a bunch of episodes with Odd Squad with you. Isn't Miss O always carrying around a juice box?
And littering with them.
And littering with them?
Yes. In the tube room, when they do the squishinating, she threw her juice box on the ground and then just walked away.
Because she's the boss. Somebody else will clean it up. We'll have to talk to Millie Davis about littering.
Yeah.
You said the tube room. That's the last thing I want to talk about. There was no tube room in 1874 for Odd Squad. Who invented the tube system?
Big Red.
Big Red. So how awesome. So we learn in part 2 that Miss O's name was Oprah, that the reason she loves juice boxes is that she used to have a juice and fruit stand, and the person that actually invented juice boxes' name is Yuck.
Yucks.
And Miss O became an Odd Squad agent after having another couple jobs that she talked about. And Big Red, who they thought was a bad guy, invented the tube system.
Oh, and in a different episode, she was an agent, and then there was this different girl who is the boss. Then she and Miss O said she could take over for her.
So there's another episode where they show her as an agent. Well, we don't want to ruin that episode. We might do another episode of What Are We Watching with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that is our recap of part 1 and part 2. Now, I'm going to talk about my favorite part, or my favorite person in Odd Squad. And her name is Oksana. They always do a little thing at the end of Odd Squad where they talk to either Oscar or Oksana. They're the only ones I've seen. Oscar's the scientist, and Oksana is
the cook.
The cook or the cafeteria girl.
Lady.
She works in the break room, and she says that they have like 2,000 employees. I can't even remember. So she creates a different meal for every person. And she showed all of the meals that she makes with pudding. And here's the thing. As an adult, you have to love Oksana because the girl is very dry. She is like, my name is Oksana. I cook food for the Odd Squad crew. Here are some of the delectable items I have created. And then she shows disgusting things. She showed ham pudding.
Ew.
Then she showed broccoli pudding soup. Yeah.
Ew, there's not even soup in it.
It's just pudding. It's gross.
Pudding and broccoli.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then she showed a pizza made of pudding.
Ew. We couldn't see the pudding, but it was nasty.
That's nasty.
Probably.
But then she said that she has to create like all of these meals for each person special. She doesn't create just like one meal like, hey, today's lasagna day and everybody eats that. Everybody gets to pick their own thing. So she says that the break room is 96 floors above the kitchen. And there's no elevator and no stairs.
But I have a climbing rope.
So she's climbing a rope with hundreds of meals made out of pudding. Just imagine this girl climbing a rope, holding in her hand or holding on her back a bunch of meals made out of pudding. It's just, it's funny to think about. This is what I love about Odd Squad as a parent. It teaches math, but it does it in a fun way. It doesn't do teaching like some of the other shows do where they try to teach you too much. Here's the letter E. Now we're doing math. Now let's talk about kindness. Now let's talk about... No. The people at Odd Squad get it right. They do one thing and one thing well. They teach you a math problem or math concept each week, but they do it in a funny way and they do it in an interesting way. And it's not done in a way to dumb things down for kids. They teach things in a way that is smart and clever, and I really like that as a parent. And that's why I always recommend Odd Squad to people. I love this show. So I kind of gave it away. I loved not only this episode, but I love Odd Squad in general. It is one of my favorite kids shows. It's right up there with Phineas and Ferb with me, which doesn't teach you anything but silliness and lots of words for innators. So I guess I love any show with a nader in it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we were going to rate this show, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, how would you rate this show?
10 being the best.
What'd you say?
10 being the best.
All right, I want to make sure everybody heard you talking to the microphone. All right, I am going to give you my rating this way. At the end of the episode, Oksana does her dance to techno music. I am going to give this episode 10 Oksanas dancing because that's how much I liked this episode. I am going to give it 10 Oksanas dancing. That's the best rating I've ever given a show on the What Are We Watching podcast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for indulging me and having my guest host today, Miss Mia B. Thank you for being with me, Mia.
Thank you.
And we will be back very soon with an interview from...
Me.
Millie Davis. Millie Davis and her. Yes, Mia is happy to be interviewing Millie Davis. It's Mia first and then Millie Davis. I think that's how the bill goes. All right, she's cracking me up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And please check out our other episodes on whatarewewatching.com. We're on YouTube. Just look up What Are We Watching Podcast. And we are now on iTunes. And you can see links for all of those in the information below, wherever you're finding this episode. Thank you, and we will see you next time. Well, you'll see us! This production is brought to you by the Plaid Dad Blog Podcast Network. For more information, visit plaiddadblog.com.